The Adventures of Tom Sawyer by Mark Twain. Longman Simplified English Series. Read by Utchara Boonlert. Chapter 8. Porter is arrested. Just before midday, the whole village was electrified by the shocking news. It was reported that a bloody knife had been found close to the murdered man. Somebody had recognized it and stated that it belonged to Porter. It was said that a villager, delivered on his way home, that came close Porter washing himself in a steam about 1 o'clock in the morning, and that Porter had at once crept off. These were superior circumstances, especially the washing, which was not a habit with Porter. Horsemen had gone in search down all the roads in every direction, and the sheriff was confident that he would be captured before night. Of course, the people were given a holiday that afternoon. All the villagers were flocking to the graveyard. Tom's heartbreak vanished, and he joined the procession. The dreadful place drove him like a magnet, in spite of himself. There somebody pinched his arm. He turned, and his eyes met Huckleberry's. Poor young fellow! This ought to be a lesson to grave robbers. Porter will hang for this if they catch him. These were the general remark. Now Tom shivered from head to heel, for he caught sight of the stern face of Redskin Joe. At this moment the crowd began to hurry forward, and voices shouted, "It's Porter! He's coming himself! Look out! He's turning! Don't let him get away!" People in the branch of the trees over Tom's head said that he was not trying to get away, but that he only looked doubtful and lost. The crowd fell apart now, and the sheriff came through leading Porter by the arm. The poor fellow's face was as white as a sheet, and his eyes showed the fear that was in his heart. When he stood before the murdered man, he put his face in his hands and burst into tears. "I didn't do it, friends," he moaned. "I swear I didn't do it." "Who accused you?" shouted a voice. Porter raised his head and looked around him with a terrible hopelessness in his eyes. He saw Redskin Joe and exclaimed, "Oh, Joe, you promised me that you'd never—" "Is that your knife?" asked the sheriff, thrusting it before him. Porter would have fallen if they had not caught him. He muttered, "Tell them, Joe, tell them. It's no use." Then Huckleberry and Tom stood dumb and staring, and heard the stony-hearted liar make his statement. They expected every moment that the clear sky would deliver God's lightnings upon his heart, and wondered to see how long the punishment was delayed. When he had finished, and still stood alive and wore their weak intention to break their oath and save the poor betrayed prisoner's life, they did, and vanished. It was plain that this villain was under the protection of the devil, and it would be fatal to interfere with the agent of such an awful power as that. He had now become the most horribly interesting person they had ever looked upon, and they could not take their eyes off his face. They inwardly resolved to watch him at night when they had an opportunity, in the hope of catching sight of his dreadful master. Tom's fearful secret and troubled conscience disturbed his sleep for a week after this, and at breakfast one morning Sid said, "Tom, you talk is your sleep so much that you keep me awake half the night." Tom peered and rubbed his eyes. "It's a bad sight," said Aunt Polly. "What is worrying you, Tom?" "Nothing, nothing, that I know of." But the boy's hand shook so much that he spilled his coffee. "And you do talk such queer nonsense," Sid continued. "Last night you said, 'It's blood, it's blood.' That's what it is." "You said that over and over again." Aunt Polly came to Tom's relief without knowing it. "It's that dreadful murder," she said. "I dream about it almost every night myself. Sometimes I dream that I did it." Every day or two during this time of sorrow, Tom went to the prison, a little brick building at the edge of the village. When he had a chance, he built small compost such as big tobacco and matched through the barren window to the murderer. This gift greatly helped to ease Tom's conscience. The villagers had a strong desire to whip Raskin Joe for body snatching, but he was regarded as such a dangerous scoundrel that nobody was willing to take his lead in the matter, and so this was given up.